All right, good morning. We're live on the Brushfire Mind. It's Firearms Friday. We're going to tell you a little story. What's going on? Cameron, what do we have this morning?
Well, what we have this morning comes to us from August 8th. It's out of Detroit. A 22-year-old fatally shot a man who attempted to rob him early Thursday morning on Detroit's West Side, police said. The shooting took place at 12:50 a.m. At Leisure and Thatcher, which is north of West Outer Drive and west of Schaefer. The victim was sitting in a vehicle with two people when two others approached them from behind on foot. Police say one of these people approached the driver's side of the vehicle, assaulted the victim with a gun, and demanded items. The victim, who holds a concealed weapons permit, had his handgun with him. He fired his gun several times, and the man, believed to be in his 20s, fell to the ground. Medics pronounced him dead at the scene. His identity is not yet known. The second person was last seen driving a silver SUV. No detailed description for that man is available. So that's a hashtag DRT.
What? Back over. Whoa.
Oh, yeah, we're back. Okay, so just want to point out, said it before, said it again. You don't try and rob a liquor store. The owner of the liquor store never pulls a double barrel from underneath the counter filled with birdshot. Makes you look like a plate of spilled SpaghettiOs. And I want to add, the guy that got away, the second man who drove away in the silver SUV, I really hope this is a life-changing experience for him and he realizes that crime is bad. Really, that's the best outcome in this situation. Because again, it's not like I want people to die, but what I do want when these situations to go down is for the perp to be lying in the street full of holes. Best possible outcome for everybody involved. Don't rob people. And just one extra little teeny tiny layer of analysis. Detroit's a pretty blue city. Maybe blue cities should actually make it easier to get a concealed carry permit instead of harder. We're looking at you, Chicago.
Yeah. So, this is a good story. The bad guys, the bad guys lost this one. That's a good thing. Um, I've tried to avoid talking about the mass shootings on this show. It's not that I don't think they're important. I think that it is dangerous to glorify them with too much discussion. So I, I want to acknowledge that they occurred. Um, I don't feel a need to deeply rehash the violent far left wing ideologies of the shooters or their deep worship of active candidates. And I'm not just talking about the last two shooters. But here's the number one thing we can do to improve the odds of survival for people in active shooter situations and lower the number of active shooter situations that occurs. There's one thing that Americans need to stop doing right now to make the world a better place with fewer active shooters and therefore fewer casualties from mass shootings. This is a tough one. It's complex. Try and follow me. Here we go. Stop not shooting active shooters.
Yeah, shoot back. Shoot back. How do
Return
you stop
fire.
a
That's
return fucking fire? Ooh, and I dropped the F bomb today instead of you.
amen.
But seriously, we've tried the gun control thing. We've tried that. We've tried the gun-free zone thing. We've tried all the left-wing solutions to the problem of violence, and it doesn't work. So it's time to try the right-wing solution. And that solution, ladies and gentlemen, is more guns. Oh, you want teachers to be armed? Yes. Yes, I do. They're in a building full of kids. Why would you not want for there to be at least one or two people on campus with a gun that just in case the worst thing in the world that happens, they're prepared for it? You bring an umbrella when you think it might rain. You bring a condom on a date, but you're not going to bring a Glock 17 in your purse to a target rich environment. No, more guns is the answer, period. There's a couple of things we wanted to take the opportunity to discuss this morning. The first one, universal background checks. They're not universal background checks. We already have them. Go to any pawn shop, any gun dealer, anything, and try and buy a gun. In particular, one that is concealable, like a pistol. And I promise you, they're going to put your name in the FBI's database. I know. I've seen it happen to me when I have bought guns. When they say universal background check, what they mean is Chris and I, we're friends. Let's just say he happens to have a gun that he doesn't want anymore. I know, hypothetical situation, though it may be. And maybe it's just not, maybe it's a situation where Chris is like, oh, I thought I would like this one, but I really don't. And I said, oh, well, I've actually been wanting a 380 for a while now. And I said, well, you know what, Cameron, my hands are massive and yours are tiny. This 380 might be a good fit for you. I'll sell it to you at a cheap price. Well, in order to do that, Chris can't just sell me the gun. What we have to do is find somebody who's a registered firearms dealer and let them be a third party to the transaction. So when they say universal background checks, that's what they mean. They mean Chris and I can't do commerce with one another. They also mean, like, let's say I have sons and I'm actually planning on getting all of my children their first weapon. I can't. Again, background check, right? Chris, you want to explain why the gun show loophole thing is dumb or
Okay. Just like we were talking about yesterday, when your politicians, especially guys like Bernie Sanders, talk about the loopholes for millionaires and billionaires, and no, it's not a loophole. There is no loophole. There is no gun show loophole. If you go to a gun show, the vast majority of the people there selling firearms are licensed dealers, and they in fact they'll have a computer there that's linked to the database so that they can do your background check. Unless, of course, you've already got a license, which means that you've got a standing background check. Just just as if you were to go to purchase your firearm from any dealer. There will be some people there selling firearms who are not licensed dealers, but there's a limitation. They're not allowed to sell a bunch of firearms. If you've got a guy there that's selling dozens of firearms, let's say he even went to one of the dealers, got his background check done, bought the dozens of firearms, and then he's selling them at a markup for profit as a private seller, and he's selling just a bunch of firearms as if he's a dealer. Okay, now he's working as a dealer and he's not running background checks. This is called straw purchasing, and it's already a crime. So the thing that your gun grabbers want to pretend is this loophole in the gun shows, it's already a crime. There is not a way to purchase a firearm from a dealer without a background check. Now, if you want to talk about the individual sale of individual firearms between two private individuals, here's my next question. Do we have to start doing all the paperwork every time a 22-year-old Marine is getting transferred from Georgia to California and decides to sell his jalopy for $1,200 to a 16 or 17-year-old that just got his license and needs his first car that he can afford with his little summer job? Do we get Uncle Sam involved in all of that and tax stamps and everything? No, no, we don't, because it would be the end of lawful transactions.
Wait, Chris, are you suggesting that they might want to end lawful transactions between right-wing citizens?
No, I'm suggesting that they want to end private commerce, the holding of private property, and the Constitution generally. You know, when you hear them start talking about red flag laws, you hear them start talking about red flag laws. Let me show you the red flags you should be looking out for.
Yeah, red flag laws. Man, probably one of the most terrifying things I've ever heard suggested. I mean, let's just go ahead and potentially violate the First Amendment, the Second Amendment, the Fourth Amendment, and the Fifth Amendment all in one shot.
When you hear red flag laws, this is what I want you to think about.
Those red flags have killed more than any American gun ever has, and yet they're not illegal. Go figure.
So, getting rid of all the guns, that's just going to save lives, isn't it? There's just not going to be any more murder and crime. And because the UK just, ah, they don't have any crime in the UK.
Yeah, and besides, since the state always has the monopoly on violence, ask any anarcho-capitalist, they'll explain the entire concept to you. But since the state always has a monopoly on violence, all that happens is the murder shifts. Do you know how many people Pol Pot shot in rice fields for fertilizer in Cambodia during that whole Khmer Rouge thing? Like, there were still mass shootings.
How about 5
There's,
stabbing attacks in one night in the UK? Uh, Here's one. How about the 2017 London Bridge attack? Started with a terrorist ramming a love truck into some people and then stabbing them. Just, oh, there you go.
I mean, yeah, we're going to ban cars.
Oh, you know what? Japan doesn't have any guns either. Oh, in the early hours Tuesday morning, this is from a couple of years ago. 26-year-old man turned himself in, killed 19 and wounded 25 with a knife. Yeah, let's just get rid of the guns. That's gonna solve all the problems right there.
Oh, but Chris, your Bushmaster M4 can do in seconds what the knife attacker did in minutes.
I don't
It's
own a
so much
Bushmaster.
worse because of that. I I know. I was making the point because the Bushmaster's the evil one. See,
I know.
going back.
My Diamondback saves lives.
Fair enough. Red flag laws, I at first said were pre-crime, and then Chris corrected me. He actually said that it was far more nefarious than pre-crime. And when we say pre-crime, we're referencing Minority Report, written by the great Philip K. Dick, adapted into a movie by Steven Spielberg. Go check it out. Pretty terrifying. Washington, D.C. managed to clean up all its murders, but they had to violate your civil rights along the way. And then, whoops, just took one corrupt person within the organization, and then those pre crime laws were abused. Well, red flag laws allow
No, real quick,
If
real quick, before you go into why the red flag laws are worse, to be very clear, what they're talking about with the pre-crime thing is they've got three psychics that can see the future. And so they see that in the future you are going to commit a crime and then they arrest you for the crime. Now in this fictional story, this science fiction story, what they have is not you fit the profile of somebody who's going to commit a crime that is of a certain type. Like we can look at your age, gender, your occupation, your social habits, and we can say, okay, you have a higher than average probability of committing murder. That the pre-crime that we're talking about in that, to which I am saying that red flag laws are much more intrusive and worse. They have three psychics. This science fiction. It's a The reason it's a near perfect system is to talk about the flaws in a substantially less perfect system. Partially, the whole pre-crime thing as a thought experiment is a critique of um, uh, profiling, of psychological profiling of law enforcement tactics and methodology to help and identify criminals. And that there's a lot more to that we're not going to go deep into right now. So, but this near perfect system, it's guaranteed in Minority Report, with very few exceptions, and that's why it's called the Minority Report. With very few exceptions, it's a dead certain guarantee that the person that they're arresting for the pre-crime will commit the crime if they are not prevented from doing so. To the point that in most situations in that story universe, the arrest happens moments before the crime is about to occur. So I think it's the first one that you actually see. The guy's going to murder his wife with a pair of scissors, and they arrive to arrest him. When they arrive to arrest him, he has the scissors and is about to attack her. Right? That was the first one. Right? It's been a few years since
yep,
I saw it. Yeah.
yep.
So there's I mean, it would be really hard to look at that situation and not reasonably say, "Oh no, he was about to cut her ass up with some scissors." That's what was going to happen. Red flag laws. Go.
Okay, so as Chris explained, only people within the pre-crime system could arrest you for pre-crime, and the psychics had to tag you as somebody that was going to commit a crime. Red flag laws are you feel like somebody is dangerous, and so you report it to the authorities, and the authorities show up and take their guns away for 48 hours, 72 hours, whatever. Here's how that's actually going to happen. I was thinking about the different scenarios. Like, here's one. 911. Oh my God, my ex-husband and I just had this terrible fight where he says where he says he wishes, where he says that he wishes I would die. And he owns a lot of guns and he's so scary and angry and he's an ex-Marine and I think he's got PTSD. And oh my God, you gotta help. I'm afraid for my life. And then boom, boom, red flag laws. You go take that guy's guns. And because the state has a monopoly on violence, if he won't surrender his guns, well, you kick his door in and shoot him. Now, granted, you're doing that with a Marine. That's probably not going to end well for everybody involved. You'll probably eventually get the Marine, but just better send a lot of guys. And that got me thinking, red flag laws, they're designed to target all gun owners. There's like some 100 million gun owners in this country, and any one of us are one pot bust away. We're one disorderly conduct arrest at a Waffle House away. We're a mistake that we made 10 years ago while we were a young adult or a teenager, something that could reach forward into our 30s, 40s, 50s. And now we've got a red flag violation against us. And that
Yeah.
made me realize
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead and finish that thought, and then I'll go ahead.
who the primary target of red flag laws are. They're going to be vets, military, and law enforcement because they're going to be the guys that have the PTSD. They're also the guys that know how to use the weapons. They've had extensive training and all sorts of tactics and so forth. And by and large, cops are conservative. The military is conservative. Not all of them, but the majority. And then we even take it a step further and realize that if you join the army, you swear allegiance to the Constitution itself. The ideal is worth sacrificing your life for. And there's even some police departments that have a similar swearing in ceremony. You are swearing your life to protect your local community. So these are the people that, if the shit ever really hit the fan, they're the bulwark, they're the insulation. They're the ones that would begin returning fire, effectively. And they'd also be the people that would be able to train others, civilians like myself. Okay, all right, you're getting a 3-day crash course on what you need to know to not get dead now that we have gone into full blown civil conflict. Well, if Chris is sitting in a padded cell and all his firearms are taken away, he can't do that. We can't train me. This will be used to target cops and vets, period. They are the primary target here. And this is not paranoia. This is a fact. Because I'm telling you, that whole thing about PTSD, a lot of cops are alcoholics. It's a stressful job. It's the only drug they're
A lot of soldiers are alcoholics too.
yeah, it's the only drug they're legally allowed to do. And people have a tendency to self-medicate.
Yep. And here's what's going to happen. We've already seen how the FISA Accord is abused. It's not that big a stretch to say, once red flag laws are in place, all of a sudden you've got police departments and the FBI picking somebody because they have an opinion that is disliked and saying, "Hey, we want to see this guy's debit card transactions. Oh, look, he buys beer 3 times a week. Go get his guns because he's clearly an alcoholic that can't be trusted." Um, and that's tip of the iceberg stuff. Then you get to somebody like me. I don't buy beer 3 times a week. I've got a bottle of scotch sitting on my desk. It's been the same bottle sitting there for a year. I sip it from time to time. I, I drink, but I'm not a heavy drinker. I'm not going, I am not buying enough alcohol for an examination of my debit or credit cards to show a purchase history that suggests alcoholism. Oh, but I served in the U.S. military and in combat. And Dianne Feinstein is not the only one, although she's probably the most notoriously public one, who has made this statement. PTSD is a disease that all veterans have, and so they should not have firearms. Dianne Feinstein's argument is that U.S. military service should automatically equal a total bar to a person having the Second Amendment rights that God's gave us.
Yeah. And then there's so many other situations, you know, just for example, folks in Colorado, California, Washington State. You ever been to a dispensary and bought pot with your debit card? Well, red flag. Man, you're stoned. Why would you? What do you need a gun for?
Yeah, not even a crime. Um, it's not even a crime in those states. By the way, did you hear? Did you hear that Gwinnett County is not prosecuting marijuana misdemeanors anymore?
Yeah, there was a big push
There's
for a lot of.
confusion. Well, there's confusion about. So Georgia just decriminalized uh, hemp, for commercial use, so that people can grow it. But there's not a reliable way for the police to differentiate between legal hemp and illegal marijuana. So the Gwinnett prosecutor just threw out several hundred misdemeanor pot possession cases yesterday and plans to throw out several hundred more every day until they're all off the books or until the state legislature fixes the law so that it makes sense. Well, I guess that's one way to get somebody's attention. All right, we're running along. Need to wrap this up. Before we do,
White hats matter.
no. So, I'm not a big fan of Fox News. I'm really not. But I guarantee you, they are going to be the only ones reporting this little nugget. A bunch of people died in a Walmart, right?
Mm-hmm.
In Texas.
Right.
Armed off-duty firefighter halts armed suspect at Walmart store in Missouri.
Yeah, I saw that. I almost read that for our Firearm Fridays story, but gotta have the DRT, man.
Looks like what was this yesterday? This just happened. Okay, so the
This
article was
just
published
happened.
yesterday. The article was published yesterday. Looks like it was yesterday afternoon. An armed man wearing body armor sent panicked shoppers. Okay, so this guy walked into a Walmart a handful of days after Walmart was shot up by a a radical left wing terrorist, an eco terrorist, he calls himself. Now, to be clear, both of the shooters last weekend, while the one in El Paso said that his primary motivation had to do with the invasion of Mexicans, um, everything else about his manifesto is eco-terrorism, socialism. I mean, the guy's basically a Bernie bro and a white supremacist. Oh, you can't be a leftist and a white supremacist. National socialists, shut up. So, it less than a week after that went down in a Walmart, this dude's he walks into a Walmart wearing body armor and a weapon. So 20-year-old suspect. I bet you he looks just like the Garland shooter, the Dayton shooter, the El Paso shooter. Yeah, I bet he looks just like those little soy boy basement dwelling frickin'. Okay, I'm in a basement, but I'm a professional. This is a basement studio. Shit up your nose. Um, but these, I swear to God, man, they look like they were cloned and set out to do mayhem. I'm I'm not trying to advance a conspiracy about Russians making clones here. I just think it's funny that that the three of them look so similar, and that just happens to be happening right after we're seeing all these articles about Japanese human animal hybrid clones coming out. Like, what the hell is happening? What? We're in the upside down. It's all gone wrong. But dude walks into a Walmart, armed and wearing body armor. But an armed off-duty firefighter put a stop to it and backed him up. Guys, I call that. You know what? You know what I think about that right there?
Total win. Total win. Total win. Total win. Total win. I'll give a rat's ass what the hell you think.
That's what I think about that. That is a total win. And on that note, I've got to get on the road. I've got a lot of driving to do today. So, good show. Another DRT.
Wake the hell up, people.
I'm going to leave you with a DRT. I'm going to leave you with a DRT sounder. And we will see y'all. Are we doing a Sunday show this week?
I don't know. We'll talk about it. We're filming tomorrow. I'm sure we can.
Okay, yeah, we're filming tomorrow. I'll give you a maybe on Sunday, and if not, we'll see you Monday morning. Have a great weekend. Stay free. Make America great again. MAGA, baby.